So our next presentation will be delivered by Deidre Hamilton from Yarkuwa, and the presentation will be on caring in a border community.
Hi, my name is Deidre and this is Karen.
Hi everyone.
We work at Yarkuwa Indigenous Knowledge Centre in Deniliquin. Yeah, but I'm watching myself. I head the Carers Project, and today we are going to talk to you all about some examples of how our community carers are having difficulty with a few things. One is the cross-border issues. The second one will be management of home care packages. And the third, coercive control within relationships between carers and the person being cared for.
So, Deidre and I'm just going to sit off screen because this is about Deidre, but you'll hear my voice. Deidre and I are going to talk to you about some specific case studies that will give you a better idea of the complexities and the difficulties that Aboriginal carers within our community are facing. So if we start off talking about the first one we discussed was living in rural Deniliquin, rural New South Wales, which is close to the Victorian border. So we are about 45 minutes from the Victorian border. Yeah. So tell us about what's been happening for us for the last couple of years with lockdowns, and we'll give everyone a bit of a rundown on what's been happening with appointments and people.
Yeah. So, we have a very small hospital here in Denny. So when we need to see specialists or other doctors, we've got to go out of town. Echuca is the closest, which is about 45 minutes, but that's in Victoria. And we've got Albury, Shep and Wagga, and they're all a few hours drive. Bendigo. They're all a few hours drive. But in lockdown, and when they pop our bubble and we can't get to Victoria, well, a lot of our carers go off to all the stress and worry about what's going to happen to the person they're caring for.
So what's been happening for one family specifically, if we talk about, we've got grandparent carers who they care for each other, but they also care for their grandson who has complex heart issues. So just give them an example of the last couple of weeks of what's been happening for them. So at the current time, Deniliquin has a few COVID cases, but what has happened over the past few months is Albury's had cases, Wagga's had cases, Echuca's had cases, Bendigo's had cases. So they're all of the places that we access. I'll give you a bit of a case study of what's happened with this family in the last few weeks.
You were talking to her yesterday, wasn't you?
Yep.
I didn't sit in on that.
Oh, well, I'll let you know. So in the last week, all three family members have medical specialists who reside outside of Deniliquin. Some in Bendigo for treatment, in Albury for follow-up appointments after their grandson had open heart surgery a few months ago, and then some other appointments in Melbourne and in Wagga. So within the last week, with the lockdown changes that change, if we're not saying daily, we can say hourly, about access permits and ability to get in and out of communities. We've had to check cross-border issues, apply for permits, and then the implications of going along the river bubble from Albury back to Echuca, then over to Echuca and another appointment into Bendigo, and self-isolating, and a young 14-year-old not able to go to school, parents being concerned about, and grandparents I should say, being concerned about the accessing medical specialist appointments at hospitals where there are COVID cases. All of these complexities add layers and layers to the access and the ability to be able to travel in and out of communities just to engage with needed, not so much emergency, even though thank goodness there hasn't been any emergencies, but needed medical treatments after, for one example, open heart surgery. So that's just one example. Do you want to talk about the sister and the two brothers, examples of appointments?
Oh, yeah. We got a sister that cares for two brothers.
In what age range?
One's 82 and the other one is late 60s, the two brothers. And she is not well herself, the carer. And their appointments, they have changed doctors 4 times so far this year. And now their next appointment is in Melbourne, but they cannot get to Melbourne. So they're just having to wait now until things start calming down and opening up. But she's very stressed, very stressed.
How about the layer of appointments being offered through telehealth? How are our Aboriginal carers and community coping with that?
Through?
Like on the video or on the phone?
Oh, yeah, on the phone mainly. But they don't understand everything doctors or receptionists talk about. So a lot of our carers are just agreeing with whatever they're hearing. And then that's when they'll come and see me. And then we do a lot of ringing around and try and sort things out. Yeah. What else have I got there?
So that leads us into thinking about not just specialist and medical issues, but around people who provide aged care packages. So with the border issues, it's again very similar. People who are receiving aged care packages, their provider isn't necessarily always based in Deniliquin.
Yeah.
So Deidre, tell us about some of those cases.
One of our cases, one of the recipients, in his care package, the provider bought him things in his package that he did not want, didn't ask him about, just sent these things to him, and then stopped a few things. I'd say stopped his wood over winter. Now, this is an elderly man and an elderly woman, so he tried going out and chopping wood himself, which of course he can't. But their package provider just thought they'd just take it on themselves to change things. So we've done a lot of ringing and chasing there too. But like everything's not from Denny.
So a lot of our service providers are from Bendigo,
Shepparton.
Swan Hill.
Bendigo, Swan Hill.
Yep.
Yeah.
So a lot of engagement with the providers, where it used to be face-to-face, has now just changed to phone.
Phone, yeah.
And a lot of
which a lot of our carers, most of our carers here are elderly too, and they will just not talk on the phone. They will just leave it for weeks, and then they'll come and see me, and then I'll ring around and fix things up.
So that leaves a lag between what they had as an entitlement or what they were being provided to. So what are the complexities around that? So what are they missing out on? So that's okay. So what we've heard from some of our carers is that they were expecting different things within their package to be delivered, whether it might have been modifications on their homes or bathrooms done up. Through COVID and also the transport of equipment and goods to be back and forward, all of those what they're expecting within their care package have either not arrived, had delays, which has impacted on their ability to care for themselves, each other, and the person,
Yeah.
You want to?
And some are put off until next year. Some of these modifications to homes.
And aids.
Yeah. Mm.
So, when we're talking about the stress on families, can you give us some examples of some supports that you've been able to put in place for families? There's a great deal of stress with all of these cross-border issues, caring, provider, confusion. Do you want to? I'll give you a couple of case studies. You can just talk about. Dina?
Oh. We did have a young bloke looking after his elderly uncle. And then I found out through some people around town, he was ripping him off, leaving him in the house with, nothing to eat, weeks on end. And so that's when I went and I spoke to the recipient's elder brother, and then he stepped in and he took control. He took him out of that house. And now, to look at him now, he's great. But we've had a couple of cases here. The younger one standing over the elder person that they're caring for.
So the person who's meant to be receiving care isn't getting the care they deserve. There's financial abuse within the household, which and we have helped families look for alternate carers within their family group or extended family, as other people may call it, to be looking for supportive care arrangements for people that are vulnerable because of the layers of complexity and stress that the person who's been caring for that elderly or disabled person has been experiencing, but also putting the person who's being cared for into a safe and caring environment. So I'd like to get you to have a chat about families that are experiencing other issues within the cross-border. So not just caring for elderly, but caring for children as well. So we've got some families that have young children.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do have a carer that cares in the afternoons and of children. And the mother of these children is only supposed to be leaving them with the carer for a couple of hours. But the mother goes off for hours on end. And so, of course, that carer gets frustrated. And sometimes the mother even goes out of town without telling the carer. Yeah, but that is all fixed up now.
So within our small community in Denali, and we're sure that we're not the only community that is experiencing these challenges across the rural and border issues, specifically border areas of New South Wales into Victoria, of New South Wales into South Australia, in New South Wales into Queensland, where the stress on communities when services are managed from outside of our region, especially with the cross-border issues when restrictions and sanctions come into place, adds a greater level of stress and disengagement that people are already feeling in those households. So Deidre's role is very much as that in-between person who's going and using the connections within community to be able to unpack what's happening within each of these households. And each household has lots of levels of, I suppose, dysfunction really within the caring space. So just a little bit of background in how our carers have started to access you and what some of them would say when they first came in. So to just give testament to the relationship that Deidre and the other workers within Yarkuwa, within the Carer Project have built, it's about changing attitudes as well. So
Yeah.
Deidre, have
a lot of my carers said they weren't carers, but coming in here and the talking and me pointing them in the right direction and doing this and that, and now they do say that they are a carer.
So we find that's a really important breakthrough within our families and our community in recognising that their roles are not just as a mother, as a sister, as a daughter, as a niece, as an auntie, as an uncle, as a brother, shouldn't just be sexist here, that they also have a recognised role within society outside of their recognised role within family, and that there is help. So now that they've recognised their carers, what's the next step that you do, Deidre?
As in?
Accessing the services and...
Oh, well, that all depends on what they're looking for.
Yep.
What they ask, and then a lot of phone calls or looking around.
So what Deidre isn't saying is the work that she does, that she doesn't recognise also as like the carers, is all of that connecting between the person, self-reflection to understand they are a carer, and then to understand what have you been working on in putting into language for the last year or so.
Oh, the carers charter.
Yep, so the carers charter, to understand that they are a carer and that there is a charter of rights for themselves and a charter of rights for the person that they're caring for, and how that all fits together. Deidre's doing a side project at the moment, turning the carers charter into...
Oh, no, that's done. Sydney should have that.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's done then. Putting that into our local Aboriginal language, so that we have ownership. Aboriginal people within this community have the ownership of that, and understanding that they are a carer as well as all of those things I said, a child, an aunt, and the person that has connected all of that together is somebody living in community and part of lots of those families, who has made those connections for the carers with the services that are available, whether they are services in Deniliquin or services for outreach, but making sure that there's access and equity within those services for our carers in Deniliquin. I think we're nearly done in time. Is there something else you want to say, Deidre?
No, that's about it.
So, yeah, there are lots and lots of issues, but we're working together with community to address these issues to make sure that our carers get the best and our recipients get the best care possible.
Thank you.
Smile.
Thank you.